Good morning, Joshua.
You'll back me off a little bit. So I'm not up in your grill like this.
That's right. That's right. Don't get so close you can see the wrinkles, man.
Hey. Yeah, that's true.
Well, we're looking like a three-legged stool with something broke off of it right this moment. Maybe we need our Floridian buddy to contact his brother and go, hey, aren't you supposed to be on the TV? Oh. Speak of the devil, there he is.
Good morning.
Jeffrey.
We just had your brother call you.
Oh.
Just to make sure. So, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you.
I had to get coffee. Sorry.
May I tell you, the other night I was trying to be like Jeff, with the cool screen in the back and all that.
Uh-huh.
No one can pull it off like Mr. Phillips. It's just it's a gift. So
Mr. Phillips pays his internet bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have to, bribe squirrels to hold wires to get internet like I do.
Speaking of squirrels, though, I think one Ronnie tells me not to blame the squirrels, but I am. I think one chewed a couple wires on the back porch. So poor Mr. Kevin McKinney has been helping me solve that problem, and
yeah,
he's been diligent. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
not exactly solved, but he'll get it.
Squirrels will do it. I just don't understand what the attraction is. But
so when I had some roof work done, the guy had me go up there with him. He showed me they'll actually chew like on the metal, and so they have to put like this like putty or something around like the vents and stuff in the top because they'll actually eat away at the metal. And I'm like, what in the world? They're just crazy, man. Squirrels are destructive creatures.
They're the hogs of the trees.
Hogs.
I've always called them tree rats, but I like tree hogs better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like my mug, Joshua?
I do. It's fancy. Where'd you get that?
This is it was a gift from Rafa Clinic one year. So
nice.
Looks like it could be like the chalice, like the Holy Grail in mug form.
Yes.
Well, I thought about drinking my coffee like this morning.
There you go.
I want to say a special shout out to my current attenders on my watch party, and one of them, this will have special meaning to you.
Ooh.
So
Ron on there.
So to that individual, look at that. What other church has the courage to advertise another church? I'm telling you. So
yeah.
This is one of my favorite cups. I'm going lidless. It's a lot harder to spill.
I just had to get something off my chest this morning.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and get in the rant hour. I am not happy with Sling or Dish because they can't get their stuff together with Fox Southwest. So I had to pull the trigger on YouTube TV just so I could watch Rangers games.
Yeah, that's what I had to go from PlayStation View to YouTube TV because it shut down PlayStation View. But, YouTube TV, they went through that same thing with Fox Sports Southwest earlier this year. And enough people complained that they extended it. So, because somebody bought the regional Fox Sports stuff and they're trying to jack up the prices on everybody.
Oh yeah, dang investors.
So let's give a special happy grandparents to be, wonderful friends, the Dorners. Happy news to you, and congratulations.
Absolutely.
And then our brother Clarence out in Tennessee. I don't know, Clarence. You might log out and log back in. I'm not sure why you would be getting a combined vocal stream.
Well, somebody paused because the same thing happened. But we didn't hear you for a minute, then Jimmy. So we might have paused you at the church or something. It's okay. We're working through it.
Now I'm going to tell you, our three voices at one time may be too much.
Yeah, we're just not courteous. We speak over one another. That's
right. We have no decorum whatsoever. So, I want to give another shout out to our special on-campus viewing party. We have a Sunday school class here, and they're gathered together, and they're watching us together. And so I just want to give a shout out to the ladies. And this is available if you want to come a little early and be here on campus for this lesson. You can enjoy their company while you're enjoying our teaching. So a special shout out to them. Matter of fact, I may go on the camera and go see if they're actually in class.
There you go.
Well, this is why Jimmy would make such a good radio host. He's already got the shout out thing down and all the announcements and everything. And he'd be the guy keeping it going.
Yeah, let me go ahead and advertise our Tuesday night theology class. We've got a couple more, maybe a third week if Josh would sign on to it. But we will be reopening Discipleship University the first Tuesday in September. We're expanding our faculty, our teaching faculty. The topic will be announced to you probably next week. So we're really excited.
When we figure it out. No, I'm just kidding. When we figure it out.
Can't figure it out. But we're looking to expand and to be more creative and to help use this wonderful access to you and discipling you. So good morning to our wonderful family in Arkansas. So we've got Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas. I mean, we're not worldwide, but we're southwide.
Mm-hmm.
So Georgia will be here today.
Oh, that's right.
Georgia in person.
In person. Man.
Yeah, we did a little surprise murder mystery party for Nathan last night that went pretty well. So
awesome.
I'm not sure if y'all saw photos or not, but it was a good time had by all, even the person who was murdered.
So all the Slinker brothers are in the same city.
We're in the same place for the first time since Christmas. Yep. So it's been a bit.
Man, you talk about a place the Soviets may want to take down.
They want to get all of us at the same time.
That's right. All at once. So, oh man. Well, is it supposed to rain today? I see the clouds.
Good question.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna.
Guys never know what the weather is. I could just ask my wife. Hey, is it gonna rain today? We have a 30% chance later on this afternoon, and then I've got the little thunderstorm clouds Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I guess there's a chance the next 4 days too.
So here's my political nugget. Well, they all want to do something, but I don't know if they'll get together enough to actually accomplish it.
Now they did last time though. Now last time you doubted.
Yeah, I'm thinking about running out, washing my car after church just to see if I could get some rain.
Hey, if I could put in a request though, thunderstorms around 2 to 3, 2:30, that'd be pretty nice during nap time. So it'd be like, it's always calming. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're supposed to go out to Karen's and swim for Grant's birthday. So they'd be pretty upset if it was raining. But
okay, all right.
They'll get over it. They swim. It's crazy. Like, can I just say this? And maybe I was different when I was a kid. Swimming to me, like, hey, let's go to the pool. It's not that I enjoy it when it's really hot. Yeah, but it's not I'm not a big fan of it. It's fun, like on occasion. But I mean, you probably get more joy out of seeing the kids, who have fun in your pool, using your pool, Jeff, than you actually use it. I mean, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. Well, when I'm in it, I'm cleaning it.
Yeah.
And let me say this: I'm swimming in a lake for two reasons. If I'm saving a life or someone is taking my life. That's
I'm not doing the lake. I need to see the bottom of wherever I am. No.
And I've been watching a lot of shark TV lately. The ocean might be about to become out for me. I just, I
always loved the shots from the helicopter back in Florida, on Destin and all that, where, you've got the silhouette of the shark or something that's swimming, 50 yards away from the 12-year-old.
Yeah, no, I'll run into it and then let the surf hit me or the wave, but I'm not swimming in the ocean. Yeah, I'm a land mammal.
Now, I don't know if the church would authorize this, but I think we need to have a discovery spiritual retreat and go walk the beaches of Oregon together. Now, that is transformative, my brothers. We'll drag driftwood up and we'll start a fire on the beach and we'll have toasted marshmallows.
I'll bring my guitar. We can sing Kumbaya.
We could. Oh yeah. We'll watch the sea lions flip and flop
But just the three of us.
Just the three of us.
There's a song in there somewhere. There's a song in there somewhere.
Just the three of us. We can make it if we try.
I told you. Here we go.
There.
Maybe swing through, clean up a few protesters on the way, and there we go.
That's right. Go work out some middle-aged angst.
I always like the and it doesn't matter what the protest is, but I always like the people that have just kind of the funny sign that they can put next to the other sign, that adds some levity to the situation. That's one of the things I miss about, hopefully we haven't college football is on game day when they have all the people up there and you've got all the signs. I just like to read the signs. Like people are just really creative. It's hilarious what they can do. But hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully we see that. Have you seen, I know that we couldn't get it to work, Jimmy, but did you see any of the photos or anything about the cardboard cutouts behind the Rangers players?
Cutouts, yes.
Yeah. So here's my 2 cents. And then have you seen them, Jeff? Do you know what we're talking about?
I've seen them.
So on the wide shot where you see kind of just the upper crowd and the batter and the pitcher, it doesn't look bad because they look proportional. But when you get to the closer shot and it's just the people on the ground level, like George Bush and Laura Bush and all that, they're too big. So it makes it look really weird. So if you took them out of the ground level and you just had them up in the stands for the wide shots, it actually wouldn't be too bad. But it kind of kills it for me when they're gigantic on ground level. That's my 2 cents. So.
Well, but they're big fans, Josh.
They probably pay big money, but just make them proportional. Make the cardboard a little like a normal human size.
Listen,
why do they have to be gigantic?
When you're tricking up, you're just tricking up, so. But I have to, I always want to try to admit when I'm wrong. I didn't believe baseball was going to pull it off. So I do have hopes for the others, and we'll see. I think the world's a better place with baseball.
Got the whole crowd noise being pumped in and everything. It's a little weird. But that's okay.
I'm okay with the crowd noise. I'm okay with the crowd noise because it's not overwhelming, but it's something there. But to me, the cardboard cutouts on the ground level are the only thing. And I'm not complaining because I'm just glad they're doing it. But as far as actually distracting to when I'm watching it, the only thing that's distracting to me is the giant ones on the bottom. But
yeah. Maybe we should have pumped in crowd noise, in the beginning when it was just, the worship team. No one in that, you had Jimmy's lone, clap in the audience. So
we should have pumped in some offbeat Southern Baptist clapping. We really would have lighted it up.
Offbeat and unsustainable.
Somebody out in the audience trying to sing harmony.
Baptists are some of the worst clappers God ever created. We can't be in the same room with our Pentecostal brothers and sisters. It'll just ruin heaven for them.
Well, we couldn't be Church of Christ if we wanted to because we can't keep a beat to save our lives. We got to have some drums or something up there.
Oh, I know. It's funny.
True.
I have family that are Church of Christ, and on the occasion I've gone to church with them. It seemed like, and it wasn't my family, it was a stranger, but I always seemed to find myself seated next to a person who couldn't carry a pitch in a bucket. And I've lost my pitch discipline, so I just had to be quiet and listen to that misery.
Well, now some of those Church of Christ, they can really sing because that's all they do. I mean, it's beautiful, but for us, no, we need some drums, we need help, guitar, we need a little reverb on there, something to get us through.
We need something to round out those rough edges.
Yeah, and I say that with all sincerity as I lead music this morning. So that'll be nice. Just remember.
Just make sure your drummer is rested. Whoever's drumming this morning, right?
I got Jake. We're good. We're good to go.
Good.
I always make sure I get the cream of the crop for when I lead. I'm just kidding.
Well, there you go.
We love you, Travis and Colin.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. We have.
Good luck at your next churches.
Well, we've just had 2 drummers become available for other churches. So there you go.
That's right.
I did see a post from last year, a few years ago, where for some reason, it was back when we were just scheduling on email and we weren't using Planning Center, which thank God for Planning Center. But somehow I had missed something and I had forgotten to schedule a bassist. And both Andrew and Ryan showed up for the service, and they were sitting there. And I have a photo of them because they're sitting there and they're each texting me be like, hey, I can play bass. You want me to play bass? And I'm just like, whoops, I forgot to schedule, and they both showed up. So it's pretty clear that we could have had a bassist this morning. But
So
oh well.
I know musically you can have a double kick drum,
Mm-hmm.
and you can obviously have more than one guitar. Can you have more than one bass?
You better not tell them that. You better hope they're not on here.
Is that possible? No, I just saw
Sure.
Ryan walk by one of the cameras, so he's not on here.
Yeah, no, you definitely can. We wouldn't want to do it. It would be pretty bass heavy. Yeah, it'd be pretty. The lower end of the frequency range would be pretty popping. It might be causing people to have bowel movements in the middle of church or something. We have too much bass in there.
Oh, no.
We gotta be careful with it. Yeah, that happens.
There's a statement that will not be issued in Greenville, Texas today.
Hey, I used the most politically correct term, right?
Yeah,
you did.
I didn't say it wasn't right. I'm just saying it won't be issued in church. You do not get those types of hot sports opinions anywhere else in Greenville on Sunday morning.
Now,
maybe we should rethink. Go ahead.
I said on the other end of the spectrum, you can't hit a frequency that shatters glass, so we got to be careful about that too. We got all this stained glass around us.
Yeah,
got to keep in the middle there, man. We need this middle.
Yeah, got to keep Sharon reined in.
Sharon could probably do it if we could find that note. Sharon could probably hit it.
Yeah, she can break glass.
Wants us to explore discovering disco worship.
Is that the worship of disco or the use of a disco ball in
worship? I would
worship?
think it would be the use of disco in worship. So
little Bee Gees.
Well, if you need a disco ball, I'm sure there's one in my attic. I just need to call Melinda somewhere, and even probably 3 disco outfits. We could probably be outfitted by next Sunday. I'm sure.
Getting to the disco ball would be easier than getting the disco ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Clarence has to come and hang it.
Yeah.
Now was disco? Was that late 70s? Was that when the disco era was?
Yeah.
So both, how old were? Both of you guys lived through that. Then you remember the disco era, like
old enough to do it.
Junior high.
Yeah. So it came and went, right? It didn't last as long as. So what? Looking back on it, like when you were in the middle of it, did you just think, "Oh, this is the future music. This is how it's always going to be"?
The Bee Gees were the
the
Rushmore of music in their time.
Bee Gees, 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Bee Gees. Don't get me wrong. It's interesting when you have it. For us, like in the 90s, you had grunge and you had ska. You had these things that were just around for a few years and then they're gone.
We just all weren't angry like you.
Yeah.
If you look,
I was
at disco, then we had country and western with urban cowboy, and then it just fell off. That next generation just got angry.
Everybody doesn't like the next generation's music. I don't like the mumble rap in all this. I'm an old man. I'm with y'all. I'm defending my genres, and I'm already not liking the kids' genres. It's already happened. I've already transitioned.
We all know when you turn on classic radio, you know what comes up. So we all understand what's good. So, well, Jeff, are you going to defend the word and our generation today? Is that what we're doing?
I am. Let's.
All right. Let's back away and leave Jeff to his business, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
All right. Well, good morning, all. So this message this morning, or this time we're going to be together, I'm sort of going to set up what we're going to be covering over the next maybe 4 or 5 times that I teach. So I don't get any props, so I don't get any money for this book, but we're going to go through this book here by Pastor Kyle Ottoman. It's called Not a Fan. I read this probably 7 years ago or something like that. It talks about it helps us assess our relationship with Christ, and he takes the angle of whether you're a fan or a follower of Christ. It was pretty awesome. We were talking about fans this morning already. So we're gonna to set the stage, we'll be in John chapter 6 this morning, and I'll summarize a lot of it because I probably won't read all 70 verses or whatever it is. But here we see, Jesus is feeding the 5,000. He's at the height of his ministry. He's, word is spreading about his healing and his teaching and the miracles that are going on. The crowds are kind of gathering to come and cheer him on, if you will. They want to see the celebrity of the day because that's kind of what Jesus was at this time. He was, in his own little rock star status, if you will. But here we have a full day of teaching. The crowds get hungry. Christ asks what's for dinner, and Peter says we don't have enough money to feed everyone. Andrew says, hey, I've seen this boy. There's a boy over here that has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. So Jesus asks him, to gather it. He blesses it, and he feeds the 5,000, which is, we all know or probably have heard, there's more than 5,000 because it was only the men at the time. So, and there's plenty of leftovers. After dinner, the crowd kind of camps out in the field, if you will. And then the next morning they wake up hungry. Well, during John 6, Christ has already gone to the other side. The crowds are looking for Christ. And so they depart to the other side. They find him. And of course they're hungry again, but Jesus has pretty much stopped his serving of his meals for the day. So that is a very loose translation of John chapter 6. And I skipped a lot of stuff in the middle. In verse 26, John 6:26, Jesus says, he answers the crowd, and he says, Jesus answered them and said, truly, truly, I say to you, you seek me not because you saw signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. So here we have Jesus. He understands and he knows that the people are not going to all this trouble to kind of get near Christ just because they are primarily interested in him. They really are looking for the next meal, if you will. They're kind of looking for the next oddity that may happen, or they want to get close to Christ, who is at the height of his popularity at this particular time. You go on down a little bit in verse 35, Jesus ends up talking about himself as the bread of life. So he offers himself as bread. And he says, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. Now, the thing is, instead of a meal that he's offering, he's saying, hey, I am the bread of life. Don't work for food that's perishable. I am, accept me because, I'm eternal. My bread is eternal. So, the question is that enough? And that's one of the questions that we'll answer for ourselves over the next several weeks. Is Christ as the bread of life, enough for us? Or are we just simply wanting to be around Christ because maybe we have some fandom in us, if you will? But I'll get to that in just a second. So Jesus declares his bread of life, and suddenly he's the only thing on the menu, right? There's no other options. There's not even 2 small fish. So he's the only one on the menu. The crowd has to decide at this point, is Christ going to satisfy my need, or do I need to have something else? And sadly to say, in verse 66, as we're sort of closing out John 6, it says, and as a result of this, many of the disciples withdrew and were not walking with him anymore. So we know that many of the people just kind of turned and left. Many of the people said, listen, I don't really want this whole Jesus thing. I'm really here for the free meal. I'm really here to kind of see the miracles. I'm really here to kind of see who you are. I want to be around the in crowd of the day, if you will. So many of these fans sort of turn and go home. And what we need to notice here is that Christ doesn't chase after them. Christ doesn't send someone to soften the message to the crowds, right? He doesn't. Someone's sitting in there, but I can't see who it is. But hello, in Pastor Jimmy's office. So he doesn't send anyone chasing after them. He doesn't go with an apology of what he said. He doesn't send Peter with a free meal ticket to get a 2-for-1 special later down the road somewhere else. Christ seems to be okay that his rock star status is taking a little bit right now, and we don't know how many left, but we do know that some were following him and some left. Verse 66 says, as a result of this conversation that I would encourage you to read in John chapter 6, many just said, this is not for me, so I'm going to walk away. And they were not walking with him anymore. So just a little bit of maybe public service announcement for us in the church is sometimes we get too concerned with really what people think about the gospel message, and we try and sort of pretty it up a little bit. We want to soften the message sometimes so folks won't walk away, like in verse 66. But when we do that, we tend to offer Jesus, but we also offer other bread alongside, of Jesus. So not only is Christ the bread of life, we also say not only can you have the bread of life, but you can have, what other type of bread that you may like, and I'm thinking of bread, and I don't know why Hawaiian rolls came to mind just then, but hey, thumbs up for Hawaiian rolls. Isn't that's the best thing since sliced bread, I think. Or we might offer, a little cheese. I guess I can go to Peddler's cheese bread. That's pretty good too. So sometimes we want to offer more so people don't get offended and they don't walk away. But we have to remember, Christ didn't chase after those folks. He didn't water down his message. He said, "I'm the bread of life. You're here. You might be here for something else, but this is who I am, and this is what we have to offer." Or I have to offer, and I'm not going to change that. So we have to ask ourselves: Is Christ good enough for us? So over the coming weeks, we're going to talk about whether or not we're a fan or a follower. When I went through this book 6 or 7 years ago, I have to tell you, there were some areas of my life I was just a fan. That I wasn't, truly following, and I think it could be that way, with a lot of us. And part about maturity and growth in our walk with the Lord is understanding those areas that we need to kind of shore up and rough up, smooth off those edges and sort of get certain things right in our lives. So I will tell you that over the next few weeks that I teach, probably a couple toes will get stepped on. There'll probably be a couple religious norms that are challenged. I'll probably call myself and all of us to some accountability. But I think at the end of this series, we're going to look at interactions that Christ had with certain people, and they had to make that determination. Hey, am I just a fan of Christ, or am I a true follower of Christ? And that's going to be some of the things that we talk about. So we'll look at sort of how do we go through this process? How do we diagnose whether or not we're a fan or a follower of Christ? Well, in each of these relations that we'll look at, and by the way, we're going to look at Nicodemus next week. So I'll give a little, not next week, but the next time I teach, it'll be the relationship there, the conversation between Christ and Nicodemus there. But in any relationship, there's a time where that relationship has to be defined, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a employer-employee relationship, a coworker relationship, a peer relationship, friend relationship, whatever the case is. We have to ask ourselves, hey, is this casual, or are we going to kind of commit to this thing? And if you commit, there's certain things and certain actions that take place in those relationships, and sort of having that defining moment that we assess the relationship and move to the things of more value instead of I don't know how many Facebook friends I have, but I have a lot out there, and I consider them all dear to me in one way or another. Some are deeper relationships, some are more casual relationships, some are relationships from college or high school or whatever the case is. Some I may not even talk to for a couple years, but when I do, it's like we've never have been apart, right? So all relationships are good, but not all relationships are ones that we have a deep-seated commitment to. So we'll kind of talk about that over the next few weeks. I know I'm just touching on a few things this morning. The meat will come in the next few lessons, but I want you to imagine real quickly for me. Use your imagination. Put on your imagination hat. You walk into Starbucks. I picked Starbucks because I know it'd be easy for Jimmy and he wouldn't get distracted. So you walk into Starbucks, you get your coffee, you maybe get a snack. You find a seat towards the back. And now imagine, Christ walks in, and it's Christ because he's got long hair, and he's wearing the robe and the sash, and it's him, right? And now we are playing make believe. So if anyone listens to this later, just remember we have our imagination hats on, and we're kind of unsure what to ask Christ at the time, but we do realize we didn't bless our snack, so we go ahead and we bless it real quick, so there won't be any awkward conversations there. But I would imagine that Christ would really skip the small talk and just really get right to the point that it says, it's let's talk about our relationship. And if we were face to face with Christ in a relationship and have that conversation, what would we talk about? Will we talk about how our relationship with him is exclusive, or do we have Christ plus all these other things in our life that we want to hold on to? Is it a casual weekend thing that we kind of, swing by the, computer and, turn on Jimmy, Josh, and Jeff Hour, and then we have no other time with them during the week, or do we swing by on a Wednesday night? What exactly is the level of our commitment? Now, hey, all those things are good. I'm so pleased and blessed whoever's going to listen to this morning, right? This is a great time for us to be together. But over the next several times that I teach, I want us to really assess our relationship with Christ and see where we can improve that relationship, see what is standing in our way from that relationship from growing, and clearly, define what it looks like, and really, so we can answer the question, are we a follower of Christ? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at these encounters that Christ had with these individuals. Sometimes it's individuals, sometimes it's a group, sometimes it's a crowd, just like this in John chapter 6. And there's going to be an encounter there, and there's going to have to be a determination at the end of that encounter that says, okay, am I really just sort of a hanger on with Christ, or am I actually committed and going to take this next step with him? So, when you talk about fans, if you know me at all, I'm a fan of baseball. I love baseball. It's I don't mind sitting for 2.5, 3.5 hours, watching a game. It's exciting to me. But most fans, they go to the game, and if you talk about, they could be an enthusiastic, admirer. They go to the game, they sit in the stands, they might wear the jersey, they might have the, some memorabilia in their office or whatever the case is. But sometimes, when they start sliding in the standings, that they become a fair weather fan, right? They don't watch the games as much. They don't go to the game. It's not as exciting anymore because they're not around a winner. I can think about how many people jumped on the bandwagon for the Mavericks when they won their championship, which is awesome, or the Stars, and I did the same thing with the Stars. I didn't know anything about hockey, but when they won Stanley Cup, I was all in. So I was a not a true fan myself, and so I've been on the other side also. It's the person that has some celebrity out there that they like, and they understand that they know everything that they eat, they know who their relationships are with, they know what kind of car they drive or where they live or all this kind of stuff, right? But they're not really a friend of that individual. They're just a huge admirer. They're just a fan. They don't really know them, intimately, right? So Christ has a lot of fans right now. Christ has a lot of fans in the church, in the that want to be around, but maybe don't want to be committed. Remember, fans sit safely in the stands, but they know nothing of the sacrifice that goes on in the field. It's easy for us to say, the ball was right down the middle, how'd he miss it? Well, and only in baseball can you hit 280 and get millions of dollars. Was it Mookie Betts? Just nod your head, Josh. Was it Mookie Betts that just signed the big deal? Yeah, $300+ million or something. Crazy. But anyway, fans know a lot about people or individuals or groups or teams, but they don't know them intimately, and they don't know really about the sacrifice that has taken place on the field. So Christ has a lot of fans, and you know what? Jesus really isn't interested in having fans, and I know that's cold. He wants committed followers. Now, maybe we all start out as a fan base, and that's okay. But at some point, we have to move, beyond that. So, again, over the next 5 lessons or so, we're going to ask the question: are we a fan or a follower? And the problem with answering that question right now, if I was to ask every single one of us, we'd say, I'm a follower. I'm here this morning, aren't I? I'm going to be at the lesson later. I do the theology class on Tuesdays. I tithe. I've got Tithely app on my phone. When it comes time to work at the church, I'm there. When it comes time to do something community, I'm there. Of course, I'm a follower. Well, awesome. But what I'll say is, let's look at that over the next several weeks, because the problem with answering that question right now ourselves is that it's impossible for us to be objective. Because if I look at myself and of course I'm a follower. I'm teaching a Sunday school class. So, but am I a follower in all areas, or am I a fan in one area and a follower in other areas? So those are the things that we're going to assess, right? So let's look at the criteria that we need to look at, and I'll wrap this up here in just a couple minutes. So if we look at cultural comparison, many fans or many people in the church mistakenly identify themselves as by some other standard. So if we're going to compare ourselves to another standard, I'm going to pick the weakest Christian out there. I'm going to say, well, hey, I'm better than this guy. It's kind of the old adage about, running from the bear, right? I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just have to be faster than the guy next to me, right? And the same way we compare our spiritual walk and our spiritual life to the world, to culture, we're always going to pick that, that anemic Christian, that kid from high school that was on fire for the Lord but hasn't been in church since, for the person in our life that's struggling with the basics of spiritual disciplines, right? And I'll say, well, I'm more mature than this person, so yes, I am a follower. Well, there's a danger to comparing ourselves to a substandard measurement, right? And then maybe we compare ourselves to some religious measurement, whether or not we observe all the church rules, if you will, if we go to church, if we tithe, if we volunteer, all the things I talked about earlier, right? Well, if we measure ourselves up to that, well, that's not a perfect standard either. So we have to ask ourselves, the real question: how does Jesus define the relationship? How does Christ define these moments? And what does it mean to follow him? And that's what we're going to do as we look at these encounters over the next several weeks. Is what was the message in each one of these encounters, and how can we apply those to our lives? So the gospel records many examples of Christ having this sort of define the relationship moment with these individuals or groups. And with each encounter, it's going to be a mirror for us. And we're going to be able to say, okay, Christ and his encounter with Nicodemus, what is the message there? And what do I need to take out of that? And how can I apply that to the question, am I a fan or am I a follower? So fans almost always consider themselves followers. All of us almost always consider ourselves a follower of Christ. But I want us to objectively look at the criteria that Christ says what it means to follow him, and then assess our own lives over the next several weeks and through the interaction that we'll have with one another, and maybe find out together where we're at, do an accurate assessment of where we're at so we know where we can go. So all this was just a setup. I know there wasn't, a lot of, depth about it, but I wanted you to have an opportunity. If you want to go pick up this book, it's called Not a Fan. It's by Kyle Idleman. Idleman. He's a pastor of one of I think Southeast Christian or so. I have to look it up, but about 10,000 people. But anyway, little book. You can read ahead. You can go together, but probably over the next 5 weeks we'll look at those encounters. So Jimmy and Josh, you want to come back in if you have any thoughts on that? I know it's this is more a setup than anything else, but happy to listen to anything you might have.
Well, I looked at the fandom, and can be kind of homogenized into three things. One, fandom is based on convenience. Everybody wants to be a fan when it's convenient. That's why they just built a new ballpark in Arlington, because no one wants to go out there when it's 1,000 degrees in Texas, because it's convenient.
Amen.
Secondly, it's conditional. Fandom is conditional. I will be a fan if, and I'm one of those guys. I enjoy baseball. I'll sit 3 hours with a game, but I usually enjoy the company I'm with more than necessarily the game. And when they play a regular season, those dog days, I'm out. Call me when the playoffs start. And then thirdly, fandom is easily cut off, whether by choice or by circumstances. Mm-hmm. And that can be friends, that can be sports. We have a lot of people right now having to choose what their fandom's going to look like, given political, social, all these things going on. So, yeah.
Well, and I wanted to sort of, talk about this over the next several weeks, because it's not popular. It's not popular to walk with the Lord right now. It is more counterculture than ever before. And I want us all to take an objective look. And listen, I'm I'm going through this and speaking to myself, right? Where do I need to become more, committed and not really just kind of a fan, of what's going on. But we need to objectively assess and authentically, assess where we're at, because I don't know what the next few years hold. And if we don't get grounded now, it's going to be tough. And we got young parents out there that probably could use, an assessment of where they're at, because, they're raising the next generations. Right.
Mhm.
So anyway.
Well, I mean, I'll say it, Christianity is forever changed as far as who, when, where, how from this day forward. And yes, I'll say it again. Everyone needs to check where they're at and get prepared for where we're going, because that, if you're a fan, that cutoff may have already happened or can happen. I mean, we are sailing into unknown, uncharted waters, and I can promise you, they're not going to be as easy as they were the waters we're coming from.
Right.
Yeah. When you pointed out in that passage that they left when Jesus turned out to be different than what they expected, and I wonder, how often that's the case today. Where, and then a lot of it is on how we share the gospel with people. You talk about giving them extra bread, other things along with Jesus. And you even said that, Jesus didn't chase after them. And when you look at that passage, what he says, it's kind of the last straw in John 6, is he tells them that they have to eat his body and drink his blood, which for traditional Jewish people is like really weird stuff. And so I would posit it's not only did Jesus not chase after them, but that Jesus said those things so that they would leave, so that he could clear out, so that he could separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. I mean, at the end of the day, when all this is said and done, and we're seated before the judgment seat of Christ, there's going to be a whole lot of more goats than there are sheep. I mean, that's what the Bible teaches. It says the path is narrow, so, we can get really caught up in the numbers game, but, it's almost like Jesus is constantly doing the opposite, where he wants his group to be smaller and smaller and smaller. Not because he just wants to leave people out, but he's trying to get to who's actually following him. So anyway,
well,
I thought that
there was
interesting.
a marginal preacher who recently said that God's word not returning void doesn't always mean salvation.
Right.
Sometimes it can mean culling out, and that's absolutely. It's like a professor coming in the first of the semester. He wants to cull out the chaff because he didn't have time for that.
Oh yeah.
Rather pour into
I struggled a little bit whether or not, I would do this. So, because a lot of times, we kid around, like we have a lot of fun together, right? And we do, but this hour, I want to challenge everyone that's going to be listening over the next several weeks is, let's take an accurate assessment of where we're at and get firmly grounded in what we know. That's another reason why we want to do Discipleship University, kind of know what you believe and why, and all that kind of stuff, right? So we can firmly ground my generation, future generations, existing generations, so we can actually ground people. So because the storm, I firmly believe, is going to be a lot rockier and turbulent than probably we've ever seen over the next several years. But that's when God is glorified. That's when I believe the church will have a tremendous impact, and two fine men just like you two will have, a voice, because you've been consistent over the years, right? You've been, you've been that voice in the wilderness already. So, I think it's going to be critical. So
a single candle does its greatest work in a darkest room. And yes, we do need to be prepared. But the beautiful thing is God always raises up those who are willing to accomplish what is needed. And so, going back to where you are, Jeff, that, am I a fan? Well, are you willing to be a follower? That's the question.
Yeah.
You see what's going on in China right now with the persecution of the Christians and the crackdown on them. I mean, we have a lot of brothers and sisters in China who are about to go through something really, really bad. And I mean, if you want to talk about true Christians, I mean, it's a lot harder to be a Christian there than it is here, and it might get harder here. And the numbers are going to go down because when, like you said, everybody everybody wants to be a fan. Everybody has a positive impression of Jesus. Like everybody likes Jesus. I don't think I've met anybody that's like anti-Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really different from having a positive impression of him to actually being a follower of him and willing to stand with him in the gospel when the government or whoever starts to crack down. So
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, my heart goes out to the people in China, but it's also kind of a warning, or, I mean, it's going to happen here eventually. I mean,
Well, I mean,
Well,
if
didn't John MacArthur just, I'm sorry, Jimmy, didn't John MacArthur just say he wasn't going to
yes,
comply with the governor's order of shut down the church?
yes,
He said no.
and I think if and I'm not a doomsdayer, but if you'll just look critically and understand that people who want what some in our culture want right now, there's no satisfying the appetite.
right.
It's one thing, and then it's the next thing, and then it's the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
and somewhere in that string of things is faith, symbols of faith, privileges of faith. I'd go so far as to say this: depending where our elections go, you might begin to hear more resoundingly an argument over the tax exemption of the church.
And that would shut down more churches than, I mean, that would shut down
Yes.
a lot of churches.
Well, I'm going to go so far as say this: ALF as a fellowship cannot afford the taxes on the value of the property upon which we stand.
No,
That's just financial. I'm not a numbers
especially
guy.
not in Hunt County.
That's that guy.
Amen.
That guy.
Amen.
That's the number guy.
Yeah.
And so, does our vote count? It absolutely does. And I would suggest to everyone that that's one area that you really need to think about. Who wants to put more of your money back in your pocket, and who wants to take more money from your pocket because they'll come for the church's pockets as well.
And that, I mean, that itself would shut down more churches than any other like piece of legislation, and it'd be a real easy thing to do.
Now let me flip the coin on that. If the government were to go that way, a plus of that, on a plus side of that, could be that the capital C church has to come together in order to survive economically. So you could see the necessity of a coming together of the church for the very economics of sustaining and survival. That could be.
And mediocre pastors like me would be pushed to the side. We just have like Jimmy and the A-team all like
listen,
up there.
I'm looking out my window right now, and if we were to gather, you need a big enough building, so I know what that means, and I'd probably be pastor of the parking lot. Yeah, that's what I'd be. Here, Jimmy. Here's your flock. Not the front parking lot. You get the back one.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's true. And Jeff, I think you're spot on. And like I said, I'm not a doomsday guy, but the environment is changing now. Is it going to go all the way off the cliff? I don't think so. I hope not. But I can promise you, the move toward the cliff will not be rescinded.
Right.
Culture typically doesn't go all the way back. It may ease up, but we have made an earthquake shift that won't completely undo itself in the best of circumstances.
Amen.
So,
all right. Next time I teach, we're going to look at the relationship with or the conversation between Christ and Nicodemus.
So I'm hoping you two guys are going to come to Campus Church today. We are going to finish up our look at a faith that shakes. We're going to get with Paul and Silas, and we're going to get down and dirty, and we're going to see just who God can deliver. So I hope that you're on your way here on campus if you can, and if not, I hope that you'll be back in about 15 minutes for a morning worship service. We love you, Jeff. Spot on, brother. Good stuff.